In our three-point model, we've done encourage and we've done some in comfort. And then the last parental function is to urge. I've always thought that Greek word like the word mature. And it's basically to charge, to motivate, or to train. So we're going to, Paul said, when I was with you, I treated you like a father would treat you. My behavior was consistent. Then we encouraged, we comforted, and we urged you. And I use the word urge in this passage to think about the idea as discipline. My definition for discipline is to put stress in a relationship so that the result is growth. All punishment is not discipline. All discipline is not punishment. The definition I use is we put stress in the relationship so that the relationship is growth, and it fulfills the third perception. First perception, I'm capable. Second perception is I'm significant. And the third perception is I can influence what happens to me. This is where you have that unique balance between permissiveness and strictness on the love side. We're talking about the bedtime routine. You change your strategy there to move from permissive down toward that middle ground and move from strict up toward that middle ground so that the bedtime routine becomes, you know what? Your bedtime is 8:30. I'm going to set a timer. Everything after 8:30 with me standing in here dealing with monsters and putting out fires and bringing water, that's going to come off playground time or iPad time or cartoon time. You're a big boy. You get to choose how you want to use the next few minutes of your life. And then he gets a voice. Dad stays longer, Dad stays less. But when Dad does, I pay it back. And that's where you give them permission. I let you make some choices, but I'm also not going to be manipulated. And so I can influence what happens to me. And like I say, most of the time when you do one of these seminars, people enjoy the encourage and people enjoy the comfort. But the bottom line is, okay, let's get to discipline. Well, let's read maybe some fun passages, and then we'll talk a little bit about some theoretical discipline stuff. In Genesis chapter 16, I've always enjoyed this passage. Talking to Hagar, Genesis 16:11, and the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are with child. You shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael." Verse 12, "And he shall be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand shall be against every one, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will dwell in the presence of his brethren with enmity." Yes, ADD in the Bible. There he is. You've all had that kid at VBS. He's a wild donkey of a man. Well, some of you are paying for your raising is all I can say. There's a sense of karmatic justice in the universe. If I'm standing at the back of a church building greeting people and a young man walks in, he's got 3 stair-step daughters, I say, God's paying you back for the way you dated, player. Anyway, so you just know that if you have daughters, God says, I was tired of the way you dated as a teenager, and he's paying you back. So just a little honesty there. And sometimes our kids are reflections of us. The other passage that I wanted to read is in 1 Kings chapter 1. Verse 5, "And Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself and said, I will be king. He prepared for himself chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. His father had never rebuked him." Some versions say his father had never questioned him. Some versions say his father had never interfered with him and said, "My son, why have you done so?" He was very good looking. He was born of his mother after Absalom. So sometimes we run into this discipline question when kids declare, hey, I'm king. I'm in charge. I run this place. And a lot of times kids declare, I'm in charge, I'm king, and I run this place because we've never questioned, rebuked, or interfered with them and made them call into account their actions. As I said earlier, my definition for discipline is to put stress in a relationship so the result is growth. And learning to do that is with limit setting and with logical consequences. A couple of books I'd recommend for you, Inside the Bell Curve, normal kid stuff. Raising Boys by James Dobson. The Strong-Willed Child by James Dobson. Dare to Discipline by James Dobson. Ending the Homework Hassle by John Roseman. Positive Classroom Discipline by Fred Jones. That's a really good work, especially if you work with kids or you're a teacher, but it also works in your house. Outside the Bell Curve is a book by Scott Sells, S-E-L-L-S, Scott Sells, Parenting the Out-of-Control Teenager. Now, it's interesting when you read a book like that. My theory is if it'll kill a hippopotamus, it'll kill a mouse. So sometimes you can use these high-powered weapons and just modulate them a little bit to deal with other stuff. And Sells has a really good approach to dealing with really extreme behavior with kids that kind of fall outside that bell curve of, hey, that's kid stuff and it's normal. He deals with truancy and violence and self-harm and promiscuity and all kind of stuff where kids are trying to manipulate their parents and gain control of their environment. But his principles work out pretty good. I think his website is difficult.net, which I thought was cool for a psychologist to have a difficult.net website. Basic theory, a couple of simple things. All human behavior is reward motivated. I do what I do the way I do it because it gets me something I want. Now, I've changed that over the years and said it either gets me something I want or gets me something I value. Mature people deal with values. Immature people deal with immediate wants. And, you know, as a mature person, I choose between what I want now and what I want most. And I can do that in math. Immature people only choose the immediate. I want to have fun. I want it to be cool. I don't want to do my homework. I don't want to clean my room. And so you kind of have to look at what's motivating the person. 9 times out of 10 when you're dealing with little kids and teenagers, they're doing what they do because it gets them some kind of immediate short-term reward. Okay? And who knows what reward it is. It may be to see you frustrated. It may just be to prove you're not in control. In Fred Jones's book, Positive Classroom Discipline, he says that anything other than compliance is backtalk. Period. Across the board. When I don't do what you've asked me to do, he translates that in some form or fashion as backtalk. From a strict behaviorist viewpoint, 4 seconds equals compliance. If you hadn't done it in 4 seconds, you did not comply. Even if you actually do it, delaying that says, I get to do this on my time. And so, when my behavior cost me more than it cost you, I'll reevaluate or change my behavior. So there's your formula. All behavior is reward motivated. I do what I do the way I do it because it gets me something I want or value. And when my behavior costs me more than it costs you, then I'll change my behavior. To put that in more simplistic terms, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And what's the third line? There's a third line. It's very small print. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, but you can put salt in the oats. And if the oats have a lot of salt in them, do you fight about water? No, the horse is asking, can I have a drink of water, please? Okay, because you salt the oats, you don't have to argue with him about the water. And so pick your battlegrounds and find out the things that motivate them about their desire for water rather than your desire for them to desire water. And learning to use your resources and their lack of resources to kind of change that environment will make your life a little easier when it comes to discipline. Discipline is about consequences. and choices, I can influence what happens to me. And so many times in discipline, we worry about making our kids happy. And really, it ought to be about your kids worrying about making you happy. You know, if you want to be miserable, you're welcome to be miserable. You be miserable in your room. I'm watching TV. I'm going to kill myself. Put plastic on the floor, you know. Try not to ruin the carpet. You know, I'm not going to run in here and intervene. I'm not going to chase you down when I'm being manipulated. If you think it's a legitimate, you know, threat, you respond to that. When my client's posture was suicide, they go to the hospital. 24-hour observation in-house. And the ones that are seriously suicidal don't mind going back. The ones that aren't don't want to go there again. But if you learn this is a get-out-of-jail-free card for everything, then you're controlling people with your behaviors. Discipline should have basically 3 categories. It should have immediacy, severity, and consistency. If you've got a rule, and I can break that rule, and the response to that rule doesn't have some kind of immediacy, and you know, it can be an immediate response, but not an immediate consequence. But if it doesn't have some level of immediacy, and it doesn't have some severity, and it's not consistent, then it's not really a rule. You ever taken advantage of a referee in a sport? Come to Jesus, some of you have. I played defensive end for a small club, and my first play out of the gate was to find out what the referee's made out of. I'm gonna sling that guy to the ground, go past him, and sack his quarterback. If the referee flags me, I'm gonna tone it down. If the referee lets that go, wow, somebody's gonna have a bad night. And if I can manipulate that referee a little bit, come on, ref, let us play ball. This is not the prom. We're not dancing out here. We're trying to play some football. If he worried about what I think about how he refs, oh, son, welcome to the dark side of the force. It's awesome. But if that guy says, look, Jones, you do that again, I'll throw this flag. And every time you do it, I'll drop it. I'll back you to China. Every time you move, my flag will come. You get me, son? Yes, sir. And I'm a pretty good little guy to play ball with. But if you'll let me control you, I will. And the same thing about kids. If they can do something and you cave in on it, they'll do it every time. Immediacy means, do you respond to it when it happens in the context? Severity means, does it cost me more than it gets me? And consistency is, how many times do I get this and how many times do I not? Do any of you speed? I'm not writing tickets. I don't have that power. Yes, we speed. Why do we speed? Number one, the results are not immediate, right? If he pulls you over, when do you pay that ticket? 6 months from now? Go to driving school, don't pay it at all? Is it consistent? How many times do you speed versus how many times you get caught speeding? Oh man, 1 in 100? And then how severe is it? $100? 150? I got a buddy, got married the day after he graduated college, moved to Atlanta, is an accountant. They chose, we will not have children. We will spend our lives on ourselves, his and her Corvettes. He got his racing Corvette and the Corvette he drives to work. He said, a couple $100 every 6 months to go as fast as I want, anywhere I want. I don't mind that. He's a speed demon, son, I'm telling you right now. Well, suppose the next time you got pulled over, they drug you out of the car, they took a little taser and they injected a little chip into your rear end, pow, right there. And then the next time your speedometer didn't match the sign, you got 50,000 volts right there. And every time you sped, it zapped you. Hey, you'd be riding a bicycle, wouldn't you? Enough of that. No, you know, you get rid of, well, you'd have immediacy, severity, and consistency. And because we don't get immediacy, severity, and consistency, what do? We drive like we want to. Right? That's why I eat donuts and drink chocolate milk. I don't gain weight instantly. Okay? Well, you know, I had a donut last week. I didn't gain 5 pounds. I think I'll have another one. Well, I didn't gain any weight from that. I think I'll have another one. And then all of a sudden, you know, it'll eventually catch up with you. But if every time you ate bad, you felt bad, you'd quit eating bad. But you eat bad and you feel good. That's hard to control, isn't it? Well, your kids do the same thing. They measure, number one, versus what I'm getting and what it costs me. I'll do that. And it's really hard sometimes to understand, a kid's behavior. My wife used to teach middle school science. And, she hands out this worksheet, and little Johnny doesn't want to do his worksheet. A kid will do anything to get out of a worksheet. Up to, blaming his neighbor. I didn't understand the instructions. He'll blame the teacher. Jackie uses 3 principles in classroom dealing with kids. One is calm equals control. I'm not going to jump up and down. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to pitch a fit. This is business. You know what I've asked you to do. Calm equals control. Time equals commitment. I'll lock in on you, and I'll wait till it's done. I'm not leaving this point till it happens. And then the real interesting part is proximity equals intensity. And that simply means that as you close the gap on people, things get escalated. What's your name? Celeste. That is correct. Okay, I'm going to pick on Celeste. Celeste is not doing anything wrong. She's just sitting here very stoically. So I'm writing on the board, and I go, Celeste, I need you to straighten up. Now, what investment have I given Celeste? None whatsoever. She has not flinched. I stop writing on the board, and I turn. I make eye contact with Celeste, and I'm not going to smile. Celeste, I need you to straighten up. Now, Celeste has just smiled just a little bit because she's uncomfortable. She's not doing anything wrong, but she's still uncomfortable because smiling is a sign of submission among primates. Well, I'm not going to move till you fix it. Now, she's at a disadvantage because she don't know how to fix it because she's not doing anything wrong. But she's getting uncomfortable. She giggled again. She looked at her husband. Now she's put her hand on his, help me. She's put her hand on his thigh. Okay, you feel it? Now watch what happens when I turn it up. Now she's covered her face. She's smiling, wants me to smile. I ain't smiling. I don't want to be your friend. I want you to do what I've asked you to do now. And if I could tell her what to do, she'd do it. And she's not doing anything wrong. In school, you put your hands on the desk or you go to your elbows. And a child will sell their soul to get you out of their space. They will crucify their neighbor. They'll do anything to make it happen. So, calm equals, see, when I turn around, would you behave? That's dinner and a movie right there. I'm getting a show. The teacher's jumping around having a fit. Her face turns red. But when she turns around and she looks like she's got the soul of Darth Vader, man, I don't want none of that. And you smile, that little charm. Hey, teacher. Oh, crap. And then when she's... Oh, geometry class. You'll eat the little math guys up. And you move in close. Now, what happens is you get in that close, and that little guy's going to go, hey, one of your ears is bigger than the other? And if you respond to that, you're chasing a rabbit. Hey, your breath smells funny. Did you eat pizza today? If you respond to that, you calm equals control. I've got one thing on my mind and one thing only, and that's compliance. Well, eventually a kid in school is going to drop his choice of R-rated words. You throw the F-bomb out. Well, what happens when a kid cusses you? You get out of my room. A kid walking down the hall to go to the principal's office, is he doing his science worksheet? Negative. When I was in school, Lonnie, we're going to send you home. Thank you. I've been trying to go home all day. I didn't want to be here in the first place. If you'd just let me stay home, I wouldn't have had to get up and go through this. But now I'm gone. Yeah, see you losers later, But when they cussed Jackie in her room, she pretends she didn't hear it. You understand, you don't leave this room till the worksheet's done. I'm the volleyball coach. I'll be here till 6 o'clock at night. I'll call your mom. You sit in the gym while I practice. But till it's done, we're not leaving. Your choice. He finishes that worksheet, turns it in. Bell rings, starts out. Excuse me, Celeste, you use language in my room that you're not allowed to use. I need an apology on the board to me and the students. I'm going to be late to... You should use your time better in my class. It's not really my problem, it's yours. About 2 weeks, they don't move in Miss Jones's class. I'm scared of her too, okay? Don't get me wrong, She does that stuff with me at home, But it's about not throwing a fit, not losing your composure. If I can make you feel uncomfortable, or I can get you to choose to be mad, or I can get you to be demonstrative emotionally, if I can control your mood, I can control the room. Teenage girls do it by rolling their eyes. They look you in, and they look at the prefrontal cortex of their brain, and it makes a man go homicidal. Well, they won. They are in control. It's just like, these aren't the droids you're looking for, because you're done. You're not going to have a good conversation with that kid after that, because they've baited you into that. And a teenage boy, whatever. Oh, makes my blood pressure. Well, as soon as I recognize you're disrupting me physiologically, you've won that engagement. When I can get you to move from the thinking part of your brain to the feeling part of your brain, you're mine. My first move off the line as a defensive end was to hit you so hard and make you look so bad and get away with that referee that you spend the rest of the night trying to even that score. Well, you're trying to even that score. You're not playing football. You're trying to even that score. And not only are you going to pay for it, your quarterback's going to pay for it. If I get on a judo mat with you and we're not friends and I don't know you and it's kind of one of those things where one of us has got to win this thing, first thing I'm going to do is push you. We'll shake hands, bump, and I'm going to give you a little push. Well, you know what 90% of the male population will do? They'll charge you, man. You charge a guy who's 5'4" and built low to the ground as wide as he is tall. You're going for a ride. Now, you may win that match. I'll throw you one time, I promise you. If you come at me fast enough, I'll get one of these little arms around you. You got 6 seconds when that arm goes around you. You're going to sleep. And all it takes is you standing your ground and not coming into my trap. Well, when a teenager pushes you emotionally, psychologically, or physically, and you move out of your thinking brain to your feeling brain, you're a had lad. And discipline is about maintaining your calm and your control. Because if I can punch your buttons, I win it. And it may not be about not cleaning my room. It may be about ruining your afternoon because you made me clean my room. And so you've got to learn calm equals control, time equals commitment, and proximity equals intensity. And remember, all punishment is not discipline. All discipline is not punishment. It's putting stress in the relationship so that the result is growth. So let's take the, cleaning of your room or picking up your toys. Now you can, okay, Johnny, I want you to pick up your toys. No, you can't make me, whatever. You can go ballistic. You can act like the hostile control guy over here. You go, you're going to clean that room up or I'll take this broom and hit you every time you don't do it. But if I'm standing there over your shoulder and making you clean your room for 30 minutes, who cleans your room? If I'm going to invest my 30 minutes into it, what good did that do either one of us? Oh, I proved I'm stronger than you. I proved I'm bigger than you. And by the way, you really can't make a person who doesn't want to do something do something. I mean, you really can't, depending on how stubborn they are. My wife's dad got sick, and I was a young preacher, and she wasn't there. And a little lady walked out of the church. Preacher, where's your wife? I said, well, she's visiting her dad. Well, if I'd have known that, I'd take you home and fed you turnip greens. I said, ma'am, there's not enough men in this building to feed me turnip greens. I shouldn't have said it, but that's true. You can't feed me turnip greens. You might get them in my mouth. You can't make them stay. It won't happen. Can't be done. Not enough of you here. Well, you think about telling some little kid, I'm going to make you eat that broccoli. Unless you're willing to put him to sleep, liquefy it, and blow it down his throat with a straw. And by the way, if it went down there and you used a straw, he didn't eat it. You forced it down. He may go, well, it's in my stomach, but I didn't eat it. And he technically has a point. So you can stand there and enforce the law, and what's he learned? I can control your time as you control my time. Welcome to my world. So I need you to clean your room up. Now, when I was growing up, Dad said, frog, we jumped. That's kind of the generation I'm in. But we never defied Dad. I hate to think what would happen if we had of. But now it's, hey, you need to clean your room up. I don't want to. You can't make, whatever. I like the philosophy of pay me now or pay me later. Hey, you need to clean your room up. Well, I will in a minute. You understand what I've asked you? All right, I'll go do my thing. Hey, Dad, Billy wants me to come as soon as you clean your room. Hey, Dad, I signed up for that church as soon as you clean your room. Hey, Dad, I got baseball practice as soon as your room's clean. And then I'm not fussing at you. I'm not screaming at you. I'm not yelling at you. You just learn that at some point you get to do the things you want to do on time when you've done the things I've told you to do on time. And it ain't my problem, it's yours. And that's it. Now, you've got to be willing to let them miss practice. Not go on the church retreat. Not get to go to grandma's house at Thanksgiving. Whatever it is they want to do, nothing happens in their life till they've done what they've been told to do. And then you don't become the ogre. You don't become the screaming guy. You don't become the yelling person. You don't become the threatener. It's not personal, it's business. Life doesn't happen till that takes place. When my behavior costs me more than it costs you, I'll change my behavior. And it doesn't matter what it is. You just simply, until it's done, life doesn't take place. Second scenario is that I need you to clean your room. If it's not clean by 9:30, there's a consequence. Walk away. Yes, ma'am.
At what age can they grasp this concept? A 3-year-old?
Oh, yeah. You know, as soon, Mommy, can I have a popsicle? As soon as you clean your room. Mommy, Teletubbies is on. As soon as you clean your room. You know, you control any, and don't let your kids watch Teletubbies. That's just child abuse. Anyway, my daughter could watch Teletubbies with an empty pistol clicking it at the TV. Other than that, she was not allowed to watch them. That's not true. The pistol was loaded. But you can't explain it to them, but you can teach them that experientially. And they learn pretty quick. You know, Mom asked me to do this, and especially with the little ones, you pick it up after 9:30 and it disappears. Mommy, where's my so-and-so? Where's it supposed to be? What? I asked you to pick it up. You didn't. Probably should pick it up next time I ask you. Hope it comes back. You think that Christmas elf is spooky. You know, that mom elf is really spooky, because if you don't do what I ask you to do when I ask you to do it, there's a consequence. And it doesn't have to be a punitive consequence. It doesn't have to be I spanked you, or I yelled at you, or I grounded you, or I stuck you in timeout. It's just I didn't pick it up and something happened. I better pick it up next time. And that way you end up spending less of your time fussing and screaming, and it's just about teaching growth out of these experiences. Because you do the same thing. When I put off cutting the grass, I end up having to cut the grass and rake the grass because I let it get too tall. Well, it's better to take that extra minute and cut it when it's short, right? Clean the house a little bit every day. You don't have to clean it for a month when the company drops in. We learn the same things. We teach ourselves those lessons. Well, we teach our kids those lessons pretty early coming out of the factory. And kids have weird rewards. Kids have weird stances about, hey, you know, how does the world work and how does the world operate? But I like the idea of pay me now or pay me later. And it's simply you're taking a delaying tactic and causing that delay that they did with you to delay something else later on. That make sense? How many of you guys are dealing with teenagers, and how many of you guys are dealing with preteens? Teenagers. 1, 2. Everybody else got younger than teenagers? Oh, wow, this is easy. It's really not. Teenagers are easier probably. One of the things that you want to understand is that a child who is being disciplined acts like they're suffering. And they're not really suffering that bad. You understand that, right? Kids are capable of drama. Oh! How many times have you seen them hate somebody at a birthday party and 2 minutes later be giggling with them? You're the same way. This is not personal. It is business. You ever see the cartoon with the sheepdog and the coyote, and they clock in? Good morning, Ralph. Good morning, Sam. I'm going to steal sheep. You're going to pound me. The whistle blows. They eat lunch together. You're the sheepdog. They're the coyote. It's not personal. It's just business. Now, if you let them run rampant and run wild, they're going to destroy a lot of stuff. But it's your job to contain the coyotes and keep them away from the sheep. And it's not because you hate them, and it's not because they hate you. They want independence. They want the path of least resistance. They want life to be comfortable. And when you interfere with it, they're going to make it your fault and blame you. And they learn that I can influence what happens to me. You chose to be unhappy because you didn't do what Dad asked. You chose to be unhappy when you knew what Mom asked. Now, I do differentiate between a kid being a kid and a kid being defiant. Okay? He leaves his teddy bear out in the yard and it rains on it and it rots. There's no need to spank a kid for that. He got a punishment because he was a kid. And when you say, hey, you need to go get that teddy bear, and he goes, I ain't, and you can't make me. That may be a little different response for me. I may go run over it with a lawnmower then. I don't know. Hey, look, that probably should have been picked up. I respond to defiance, real defiance, differently than I do to a child just being a child. Because some of it's about immaturity. You know, quit acting like a 6-year-old. Dad, I'm 6. Oh, okay? And remind yourself sometimes this is how a 6-year-old acts, and it's not personal. But I think your biggest frustration as parents is it feels very personal. You feel like they hate you, or they're trying to defy you, or they're trying to mock you. And there's being kids, and they're not really thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves. Does that make sense? So let me take a break and see if you have either general or specific questions about the discipline kind of thing.